Yo, what's good everyone? Today I'm going to be breaking down some of my favorite tournament or GPP plays for this 3-game NFL slate on Sunday. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find the time to break down that 2-game slate on Saturday, so I'm going to focus in on that featured slate that we have. And instead of doing this like I normally do, I'm actually going to make this more like my first look videos where I cover the entire game. With that being said, let's dive right into this. And let's go ahead and kick things off here by highlighting the over-unders and team implied totals for this 3-game slate. We'll start on the over-under side of things here, and we got 2 of these 3 games on Sunday being played indoors. That's clearly being reflected here on the over-unders. First, we got this game between the Rams and Lions coming in with an implied total of 51.5 points, and then we got this game between the Packers and Cowboys coming in with an implied total of 50.5 points. Both of those games definitely have some shootout potential. And then we look at the game that's being played outdoors in Buffalo here this weekend. That has an implied total of 34 points. Now let's move on here to the team implied totals here. Just got to change this quickly. And you can see here the Cowboys are leading the slate at 28.75 points, projected to score over 4 touchdowns in this game. Right behind them, we have the Detroit Lions at 27.25 points, Rams at 24.25, the Bills coming in at 22 even, Packers at 21.75, and then the Pittsburgh Steelers coming in with a meek 12 points. I don't know if I've ever seen a team implied to score that few of points, but that's what we have here for this 3-game slate. Now, let's show you what the weather is supposed to look like here on Sunday in Buffalo. That's a projected picture. Now, we do have Kevin Roth here from Roto Grinder saying that this is a bit overstated. It is something that we do need to keep an eye on here heading into Sunday. Either way, it looks like it's going to be ugly weather. Definitely going to have some snow, some higher winds. It's probably the game to avoid overall, unless you're looking to get very contrarian with your tournament lineups. But I'm going to talk about that a little bit more here. So let's dive into the Draftkings side of things. Alright, so let's start by highlighting this game between the Steelers and Bills, and honestly everyone, really don't have a lot of interest in this game. I think we can play Josh Allen here by himself or roll him out naked. That's what we refer to that in DFS. For those of you who are new and going, ooh, this kid's going to play Josh Allen naked, how is that possible? It means that I'm going to play him by himself in a tournament lineup, and I think that's very doable in a game environment like this, especially when the weather is projected to be bad. I'd be surprised if Josh Allen doesn't have 7+ rushing attempts in this game and could have 10+, and we know that he's capable of scoring multiple touchdowns by running the ball. Mason Rudolph, I have 0 to no interest in that. If you're looking to get super contrarian, that's one way you can do it, but I'm going to avoid that at all costs. Now, on the running back side of things here, I do have some interest in James Cook. Not overly interested in stacking him up with Josh Allen. I'd probably just play one or the other, hoping that the Bills get the running game going in this bad weather environment game. And then I do have a little interest here in Jaylen Warren. Obviously, I'm not going to stack him up with Mason Rudolph. Just talked about how I'm not going to play him, but he's so involved in the passing game. You can see his targets here just over the last 5 games that I think this could be a situation where the Steelers are trailing in this game, need to play catch up a little bit, and Warren gets more time on the field. $5,100 is very affordable as well, so I certainly don't mind that play, but that's the only Steelers play that I'm interested in here. We can move on to the wide receiver side of things. You could go with a George Pickens or a Deontay Johnson, but again, if I'm not playing Mason Rudolph, I really don't expect much from these guys either. Maybe I need to look into the weather a little bit more. Like I said, keep an eye on the weather. If we get word on Sunday that the weather is clear here, then yeah, I'll be more interested in this game, but it really doesn't look like that's going to happen. Now, on the Bills side of things here with wide receivers, look, Steph Diggs is one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. I don't mind that play, but I think there's a lot more value in these other 2 games when it comes to the wide receiver position. I think the one play that I do like on the wide receiver side of things here is Khalil Shakir. You can see here that Gabe Davis is out for Sunday, so Shakir is basically going to be the wide receiver number 2 in this offense, considering he's priced here in the mid 3K range. I definitely don't mind that from a value perspective, and that kind of leads into the tight ends here as well. I do think that Dalton Kincaid is a solid play here, someone who should see 5+ targets in this game. Kind of got better as the season went on, albeit Dawson Knox was out as well. Now he is back, so just again, not super interested in this game unless you're trying to get super contrarian with your lineups, and I understand that's what we're trying to do here on this 3-game slate with tournaments, but I'd rather try and get contrarian elsewhere with these next two games. However, I do want to mention one more thing here. I think both defenses are in play, especially if you do think this is going to be a low-scoring affair. We could definitely see some turnovers in this game, some fumbles if the weather is super bad. So I do think that the Bills and Steelers both are in play on the defensive side of things. Now, with these last two games here, I'm going to highlight each team individually because, like I've said throughout this video already, I have a lot more interest in these last two games than I do that first game between the Steelers and Bills. Let's start with the Green Bay Packers here. Jordan Love is kind of flying under the radar here this weekend. It is someone that I would be willing to roster in my tournament lineups. Easy to stack him up with his wide receivers. Now, picking a wide receiver might be a little difficult, but they're very, very, very affordable on this slate, so we'll dive into that here in just a minute. But I also like stacking up Jordan Love this weekend with Aaron Jones. And what I love about Aaron Jones here for starters is A.J. Dillon is not going to be in the lineup this week, but even more so, love that he's seen 20 plus opportunities now in 3 straight games. And this Cowboys defense can be vulnerable from time to time with pass catching running backs. And we know that Jones is one of the best pass catching running backs in the NFL, $6,300, very affordable considering the upside he offers. So Jones is one of my favorite running back plays on this 3-game slate this weekend. Moving over to the wide receivers here. This is really a situation where I think any one of these 5 guys could have a decent day. Now, Christian Watson, I think, is the biggest question mark. Obviously, he's questionable here to begin with. And typically what the Packers have done this season is when someone's coming off of an injury, they slowly work them back into the lineup. We saw it with Watson earlier this year, so honestly, I really don't have a lot of interest in him. My favorite 2 wide receivers for the Packers are well priced at the top here with Reed and Dobbs, and I like Reed. I love the way he's played all year long, just super efficient when the ball is in his hands, scored 10 touchdowns. You can see the DraftKings numbers there off to the right-hand side. He should be priced in the 6K range in my opinion, so we are getting him at a discount, but Dobbs here is projecting for 1% ownership on this 3-game slate. That is definitely something I want to take advantage of. As I mentioned earlier, we can get contrarian with that game between the Steelers and Bills, but why when you can roster someone like Dobbs here that has potential to go for 20 plus DraftKings points in a game that has shootout potential? So those are my top 2 wide receiver plays there. If you wanted to go with Wicks, I don't mind that. Has played well here over the last few weeks. I don't mind volume, especially at that price. And then even Melton there, this will really depend on whether or not Christian Watson plays. If Watson is out, Melton likely has a bigger role, but again, a guy priced here at $3,300 could probably fly under the radar and does have some decent upside considering his price. Moving on to the tight ends here, Kraft and Musgrave. Now that Musgrave is back, they're kind of stealing work from one another. You really need one of them to probably score a touchdown in this game to meet value, and I really just don't have a lot of interest in that. Packers defense, I'm indifferent about it. They are projected to be one of the more popular defenses considering they're cheaper here on this 3-game slate, so yeah, that's probably something I will avoid. Now, moving on to the Cowboys side of things here, do like the Cowboys in this spot at home against Green Bay, but do note they will be very popular as well. I like Dak here. The Cowboys scored a bunch of points at home this year. He clearly took his game to another level this season, but he's also projected to be the most popular quarterback on this 3-game slate. So for the most part, when it comes to the quarterback position, I will be looking in this game between the Rams and Lions. Same thing here with the running back. Tony Pollard, great spot against Green Bay, who have not been good against running backs all year long, but he hasn't been great himself this year. The pricing is intriguing at $6,100, but with that being said, he's also projected to be the second most popular running back on this slate, and I just don't think he's shown enough this year to gravitate towards that play. Don't mind Dak, don't mind Pollard, but I think I'll be going elsewhere for the most part. I do like the wide receivers, though, here when it comes to the Cowboys. CeeDee Lamb will be popular as well, but that is one play that I'm willing to overlook when it comes to ownership, just because he offers one of the best ceilings on this 3-game slate, and maybe the best ceiling. You can see here 44, 35 DraftKings points in just his last 2 games, and that wasn't just an outlier. He was great all year long. If it wasn't for Christian McCaffrey, this guy probably would have been the offensive player of the year. So CeeDee is definitely in play, but Brandon Brandon Cooks here is one of my favorite plays on this 3-game slate. He's projected for less than 10% ownership, so that caught my attention right away. He's someone who can get you 6+ targets in the game, back-to-back games with 8, scored a touchdown in 3 straight games heading into the playoffs, someone who can go for 20+ DraftKings points, get you 4x value. Look, if you're hitting 4x value in your tournament lineup on a 3-game slate, that's 200 DraftKings points, you're probably sitting pretty nice. Michael Gallup, really don't have a lot of interest in that, especially when Brandon Cooks is projected for less than 10% ownership. I'll take the wide receiver number 2 all day. And then Jake Ferguson, kind of the similar situation here with Tony Pollard and Dak. Good spot for sure. Do like the price of $4,700, but he's projected to be the most popular tight end on this slate. So just keep that in mind. Dallas is in a good spot overall. And then I really like the Cowboys here at defense. Maybe the projections are wrong at FTN as I record this, but I don't think they are. This Cowboys defense is projected for 2% ownership on this 3-game slate. If that's the case come Sunday, I'll definitely be on this defense. And then the last game that we have here is this game between the Rams and Lions. A lot of shootout potential in this game, and honestly, I think we can stack this one up on either side, and we could do a full game stack here as well. That's definitely going to be in play, especially considering it is just a 3-game slate. Matthew Stafford here playing against his former team. I love the spot here for Stafford. Detroit has been much better against the run this year, actually one of the best defenses at stopping the run, but they've been abysmal against the pass. So stacking up Stafford with 2 pass catchers absolutely makes sense on this 3-game slate. If he gets there in tournaments, it's likely with 2 other players on the Rams side of things. But that's not to discount here Kyren Williams. Yes, the Lions have been very good against the run this year, but Williams is involved enough in the passing game to where I think we can stack him up with Stafford. This is a guy who saw 24 targets in his last 6 games, averaging around 4 per game. Obviously, kind of an outlier their game against New Orleans, didn't see any targets, but outside of that, he's pretty much locked into 3-4 per week, so that is something that I'm intrigued in here. Can get a little more contrarian with your lineups when you stack a running back with their quarterback, but I really do like the wide receivers here as well, and I like Kupp more than I like Nacua from an ownership perspective. Cooper Kupp is coming in around 10% ownership here this weekend. Nacua is coming in around 21%, so you're getting them at half the ownership with really the same type of upside. I knew Cooper Kupp was not the same Kupp that we've been accustomed to watching over the last few years, but is this someone who could get us 25, 30+ DraftKings points? Yeah, by all means. We know he can find the end zone as well. Week 14, Week 15, 28 DraftKings points. Earlier this season, 23, 31 DraftKings points. The upside is still there, people, and even though he might not have the same spark like someone like Nacua does, this is still a guy who's going to be ready for playoffs. So I like both those wide receivers. And then Robinson here, you do have the revenge narrative there with him as well. Very, very affordable at $3,600. Made a name for himself there in the last handful of games. What is that? The last 5 games. He didn't play in Week 18. So last 5 games had some really nice upside there, especially considering the price. But it is worth mentioning here, he is projected to be the most popular wide receiver on this 3-game slate, coming in around 41% ownership. So keep that in mind. Great value play, but going to be heavily owned. Again, I think the top 3 wide receivers here are in play for LA. If you really want to go the contrarian route, you could play Tutu Atwell here, but he really wasn't relevant towards the back half of the season for the Los Angeles Rams. One other pass catcher that I do think we can stack up with Matthew Stafford or play as a one-off is Tyler Higbee. He's kind of flying under the radar here right now. Maybe it is because he's questionable, but you can see Sean McVay does expect him to play here this weekend, and he's projected around 8% ownership right now, kind of flying under the radar for this 3-game slate, and someone who could definitely hit 4x value at that price, a $3,400. Last thing here to discuss is the Los Angeles Rams. I'm going to be all over Detroit here this weekend, so it's going to be tough to play the Rams defense, but it is worth mentioning they're projected to be the lowest owned defense on this 3-game slate, so it is one route to get contrarian by rostering that Rams defense. And then on the line side of things here, just like the Los Angeles Rams, this is a team that I will be heavier on come Sunday. Just really like this game in general. A lot of shootout potential here. I like Jared Goff. I like the passing game for the Detroit Lions. This Rams defense has been much better against running backs than they have been against wide receivers and quarterbacks, so I like just kind of stacking the passing game here for the Lions. Jared Goff, very affordable at $6,200, and you'd be lying to yourself if this guy doesn't have a chip on his shoulder heading into this game. Sounds like like all beef is squashed between him and Sean McVay, but that's the team that traded him away and then went on to win a Super Bowl. He's had something to prove here in this game. I do like stacking him up here this week with his wide receivers. I don't have a lot of interest in David Montgomery here just because the Rams have been very good against running backs this year, but Jahmyr Gibbs is someone that I would be willing to roster. Kind of going back to the idea with Aaron Jones and Jordan Love, right? You can stack up these running backs who get enough volume in the passing game and can meet value there. He's shown enough upside this year to where we can roster him at $6,500, albeit some of these games were without David Montgomery. He's someone who could get us 25 plus DraftKings points really on any given day. This guy's so explosive. If he finds the end zone, even better. But the wide receiver side of things here, I really like this. Amon-Ra St. Brown will be a top 3 owned wide receiver come Sunday, but for all the right reasons. Sky is a volume monster, especially against zone defenses, and the Rams love to run zone. Honestly, LA could probably run whatever defense they wanted to this weekend, and I would be shocked if St. Brown doesn't see 10 plus targets. The interesting question here is, do we roster Reynolds or Williams? Williams is back from injury here this week. He's got that high upside, big play, boom bust type of style to where he could score a touchdown from 60 yards out and meet value off of one play. But I'm looking at the ownership projections here for this week, and Williams is coming in around 21%, and Reynolds is coming in around 13%. Not crazy, but it is worth noting, especially on a 3-game slate like this. And it's not like Reynolds is some sort of bum by any means. They wouldn't put him on the field if he didn't have some sort of decent upside. We saw it more so earlier this year. You can kind of see there 17, 18 DraftKings points, 24. Look, if he got us 15, 16 in this matchup, I'd be happy with that. It's essentially 4x value at that price, but I don't mind Williams either if you're willing to kind of eat some of the chalk there. Like I said, he is really one of those guys who could meet value in one play. Now at the tight end position here, all week long, I thought that Sam Laporta was not going to play here on Sunday. Hyperextended his knee against the Vikings just last week, but as of Friday here, he did say that he was optimistic about playing this Sunday and was listed as a full participant. It's something to keep an eye on. Honestly, I'd be a bit surprised if he did play on Sunday due to it being a knee injury, but at the same time, I guess, hey, if you're good to go, this is what you play for all year long. Talked about that with Tyler Higbee, but also at the same time, rookie tight end with a lot of upside. Does Detroit really want to risk that being a knee injury? I don't know. It's Dan Campbell. This guy might just throw him out there with one leg anyway. Do keep an eye on that. If Laporta does not play here this week, then Brock Wright will be the number 1 tight end for the Lions. Very affordable here at $3,000. Obviously didn't do much all year long because he is the backup tight end, but if you're looking for some value, need to save some money within your lineup, that is one route that you could go. Lions defense, not overly interested in them. They do have a really good defensive line that could get after Matthew Stafford, but I think I'll be going elsewhere for the most part. Alright everyone, that is going to wrap up this video here for today. As always, thank y'all for taking the time out of your day to watch the content here on this channel. If you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate that. Let's have ourselves a great weekend here, folks. Let's win some money on this Sunday 3-game slate and that Saturday slate as well. In the meantime, I'm out of here.